Tag TV and Tag Radio. Be seen and heard by both technology users and technology producers throughout the state of Georgia and around the world. Low cost, big benefits, powerhouse online branded video and audio has arrived. Tag TV, Tag Radio, there's a lot more to know. This edition of Tech Talk is brought to you by GlobalSpeak.com, new media consultants, corporate video and audio communications, video and audio production and distribution, live and virtual event production. Tag TV and Tag Radio is a service of GlobalSpeak.com, creatively delivering powerful marketing, video, and audio solutions. Insurance technology. Boring. Well, not so fast. Like every vertical industry, digital computing enabled by high-speed connectivity is stimulating dynamic innovation in how insurance, that's right, insurance infrastructure manages millions and millions of transactions annually. It's all about innovation. From the small agency with a few employees to the large insurance carriers, the challenge and the competitive opportunity is to connect more closely with customers, prospects, and business partners, not just in a single product category, but across the entire insurance chain. Greetings, everyone. It's Thursday, April 21st, 2011, and this is a TAG Premier Member Showcase edition of Tech Talk with Technology Association of Georgia President Tino Mantella. I'm your guest host, Frank Baia. Insurance technology. No, not your father's Oldsmobile. It's mind-boggling advanced tools and technologies that deliver the competitive edge to agency carriers and brokers. In this TAG Premier Member Showcase, we will, connect the dots to show you how they grow the bottom line for their customers as we talk insurance technology with industry leader Vertafore's President, Carrier, and MGA Markets, Matt McKernan. Vertafore is the #1 insurance software provider in the industry. It serves more than 15,000 agencies, 1,000 carriers, and 750 managing general agents, MGAs, including 97 of the top 100 U.S. agents and more than 80 of the top carriers. It has more than 1,100 employees, including more than 300 developers, and services customers in 14 countries. Matt McKernan, as Vertafore's President of Carrier and MGA Markets, brings over a decade of experience, having held a variety of executive positions at CheckFree, a VizServ Corporation business unit and Fortune 500 company, providing information management and electronic commerce services to the financial industry. More recently, Matt served as VP and General Manager of a CheckFree division where he transformed traditional software businesses to an ASP model, as well as led several strategic acquisitions and subsequent integrations. Insurance technology, dramatic, disruptive, and connecting the dots for the bottom line growth of their customers as we Tech Talk with TAG Premier Member, Vertafore's President, Carrier, and MGA Markets, Matt McKernan. Matt, welcome to Tech Talk.
Well, thanks for having me, Frank.
Well, man, I know that, in today's complicated economy, there's so many verticals, so many different issues of particular services and functionality. A lot of us are aware of insurance from a traditional standpoint, but I've got a feeling that there's been as much dynamic change and convergence in your industry as there has been in most others. So let's go into a little bit about that. What are some of the new products and services that are involved in the insurance industry?
Well, as you can imagine, Frank, the insurance industry, it's been around for quite some time, and depending on how you look at it, some would say that the insurance industry is a technology leader because back in the 70s, late 60s, early 70s, some of the insurance carriers were some of the first large installations of mainframe computing. So in that case, they might be seen as pioneers of technology, and then on the other hand, they may be considered, depending on who's saying it, maybe not so much, because some of those mainframes are still operating today in those back rooms, in those basements of those large carriers.
They actually give tours, I think.
They probably do at this point. So the industry has changed a lot, and in many cases, carriers specifically are still dealing with some old legacy platforms. Mm-hmm. And one of the more active areas is putting on a fresh face on that old mainframe system, if you will, and using newer .NET technology and web services to maybe still have the computing power at the back end, but what the user sees and what the customer sees is a nice, pretty web-delivered front end.
So I'm visualizing as you're describing this is that there's obviously some kind of an insurance app, and I can buy it by the spoon as I particularly need the insurance, right? I'm kidding, of course. I'm sure that some of the go into some of the particulars though, because I think our listeners would like to hear some of the services that are being provided now that are kind of more of the technology edge.
Well, it really has changed. The web has definitely changed the way consumers buy insurance. And so the average person, when they think of insurance, they think of their own situation with their auto or their home. And if they just go back and think about the way they bought car insurance 20 years ago and the way they're buying it today, obviously a large portion of it is being bought at the web. And so the solutions that somebody like Vertafore, like us, that we're being asked to offer to the market is allowing the customer to have a better experience online, whether they're at the carrier site or at their independent agent site. So one of our main channels and our main customer base is the independent insurance channel.
Wow.
So these are the independent insurers out there. They represent many different products and many different carriers, and that gives them the choice. But then they also have to compete online, obviously. So they're having to compete against the Geicos and the Progressives of the world. And so we enable them with some solutions that put them on the level playing field, a level playing field with the direct writers, as they're called, those website companies. And it allows the independent agent to basically give the same experience to their customer that they would have had if they'd gone out to insureme.com or insurequote.com.
I see. Well, mind that a little bit for me, though. I mean, go into the maybe just an example of because I'm fascinated. Obviously, that's an incredibly empowering capability that allows for a lot of it's the same old story. I mean, the small operator now gets to be big because of the web presence and the capability of amortizing some of the technologies that Vertafore has developed, apparently.
It's a great equalizer, and we at Vertafore, we're a technology and solutions provider, and we only operate in the insurance vertical. But doing that, it allows us to operate across the entire vertical. So we offer management systems to the independent agent channel. We offer carrier systems for the carrier, both content management and workflow systems, and we also offer management systems for a unique animal in the insurance distribution chain called the managing general agent. And we offer solutions primarily in the property and casualty space with some emphasis on life, but primarily in the property casualty and with a focus on commercial lines. And there is a whole world of insurance out there that people just don't think about.
Sure.
That needs specific requirements. And in many cases, it's not just a piece of technology, which we are very keen on building technology. We have about 1,100 employees at Vertafore, and over a third of them are software developers, technologists. And here in Atlanta alone, we've got almost 200 Vertafore employees, and they focus on the technology, but usually it requires a connection to a piece of data and getting that data from one place to another seamlessly without duplicate keystrokes. And that's where most of our solutions play. They're marrying technology with data and seamless workflow.
Do you provide the solution on a requested basis, or is it a case that you're building it and the old story of build it and they will come? I mean, is it a solutions to a problem that already exists, or are you driving the industry to a different technology competitive edge?
We do a little bit of both. We've got our well-written, well-installed flagship products. Mm-hmm. One of them here in Atlanta where we build it is called ImageRight, Content Management and Workflow System. Been out there for years, and we've recently re-platformed it onto the .NET technology. So in some cases, we're refreshing some of those flagship products, and in some cases, we're building brand new solutions that ultimately the market's been asking for. In some cases, we might take a flyer on something strategic that we feel is important to the market, but more times than not, we're responding to a growing need that our customers continue to tell us about. And if they tell us enough, eventually we'll react. And we've got over 1,000 carriers as customers and over 15,000 independent agents. So we've got a lot of input from our customers, and that drives a lot of our product roadmap.
So it's user-friendly and acceleration of the process. I mean, the dynamics continue to compound themselves. You mentioned something earlier that I'm kind of curious about, and that is the kinds of insurance that you wouldn't have thought about just a few years ago. Internet security, I mean, is there those kind of things? Do you actually get into intangibles that deal with technology, or is it more that structured thing like you were saying before, car insurance and things we're more traditionally considered when we think about insurance?
Well, some of our clients get involved in insurance of all types. In fact, when I tell people I'm in insurance technology, they kind of give me a look like, wow, that must be boring. But a lot of our clients are doing exciting things beyond just personal lines auto or personal lines home. Some of our customers do everything from insure the NFL, National Football League, which
sure.
obviously is on a lot of people's minds today
sure.
with their pending issues, and then everything to offshore oil rigs. Huh. And, of course, with the big Deepwater Horizon disaster, I'm sure sooner or later somebody thought, I wonder who insured that. And there is insurance for it. One of our customers is a broker for those kind of policies, and that policy is several thousand pages long on an oil rig. So on an offshore platform, and so we have to provide the technology that enables them to really manage something that unwieldy. And it's not just structured data, which would be, potentially the text in a form field.
Sure.
It's unstructured data, right? It's schematics, it's pictures, it's photos.
Fascinating.
And that kind of
being
able to manage that kind of data allows those people to write that kind of policy and know they've covered everything.
So clearly, it's what you were saying earlier. You're almost an IT development company as much as you are, quote unquote, an insurance technology company, because you're a solution provider on how to best market and service all of these incredible verticals and layers and tentacles of these verticals. I think, again, this is something that unless you take the time to really have an opportunity to speak to someone with your commitment to the particular vertical you're involved in, we wouldn't be aware of any of those kind of things. I'll throw one into you now, and that is economic troubles. I can imagine how you've been affected by the economic troubles over the last few years.
Well, the market, the insurance market, is certainly right there hand in hand with the economy, especially where we are most well known in the property and casualty market. It definitely tends to ride hand in hand with GDP and the economy. And so as the economy has slowed, so has some of the growth of the property and casualty, what's known as P&C. The P&C market has slowed, and not surprisingly. And what that creates is where we are right now with low interest rates is we've got a slow economy and low interest rates, and for the insurance industry, that creates something called a soft market, which is where you've got a lot of money chasing fewer risks. And that means that's going to put pressure downward on premiums. So what you used to pay to insure an office building probably has actually gone down a little bit over the last several years.
But good or bad, you would still, the technology and the need for the infrastructure and the delivery system remains relatively constant, I would guess. I mean, I would think that even in a soft market, as you're describing, with premiums being ideally more affordable, it's a shift in the market, but basically the volume still remains relatively the same.
Well, for many cases, you can imagine in an area like in Atlanta here, home of TAG, where you had a huge construction industry.
Yeah. Okay.
Go very quiet.
See, I was thinking of yachts.
Those seem to still be getting bought, and we do have a lot of our carriers write what they call specialty lines, and that is the kind of non-standard insurance that are the more unique risks. But how the economy has affected the industry like many industries, it's made the focus on efficiency and productivity paramount. And that's what our systems do for customers. They enable productivity gains. And so that in the old world, when you used to want to launch a new line of business, if you were a carrier, and this is, again, kind of goes to the economy, right, you have to be aggressively pursuing those new markets. Mm-hmm. Maybe I never wrote. Insurance is regulated by the states, so going into a new market, it's kind of like the old-fashioned banking industry, right, where they used to be regulated on a state basis. Insurance is still regulated on a state basis, so a carrier is licensed and approved to sell by the commissioner of a state. They may want to move into another state. That's a common, typical move for a carrier. And what it used to take them was a whole other team of people to go into that state and start writing business in that state. And now with our technology that we provide, our carriers tell us on a regular basis, I just entered 3 new states and I didn't add a single person. Yeah. And that's made them a lot more efficient.
I'm guessing, though, there's a little bit of a sensitivity as it relates to even in a virtual environment where you can virally market the way you're talking about, that some of those have to be adapted to different state regulations of one kind or another. Is that, again, something you're sensitive to, or do they provide that for you as part of that relationship that you have with your customer?
Well, one of the real unique things about our company is not only we are a technology provider, but we're a services provider. We made an acquisition several years ago of a company called Surcon up in Michigan, and they provide the compliance and licensing servicing for a carrier as they enter all these states. So if you're an insurance carrier, and you're a big insurance carrier, you can imagine how hard it is to track the licensing requirements for 50 states for one line of business, and maybe you write 20 lines of business. So you times 20 lines of business times 50 states and all different regulations, and we actually provide that service to carriers and agents as well to make sure that agents are properly licensed and their continuing education credits are caught up to speed. And of course, the thing that enables us to do that for all these constituents is technology. Because historically it was done, in a little compliance office where people just kind of used a lot of paper and kept track of things on emails and paper.
Sure. No, I can understand the scalability. I can see from your comments earlier about the depth and commitment you have to the vertical. It's enough. I can imagine that just trying to keep up with the dynamics that are in play in that vertical alone, plus staying at the cutting edge of all of the changes and new technologies that are coming online at the same time. Let's touch a little bit about one of the things that obviously everybody's sensitive about today is that we all know that we're all interconnected. One domino falls, it seems, and they all affect another domino across the way, and that what I'm talking about now is the global economy. Maybe talk a little bit about, certainly from a global standpoint, the insurance industry's got to even add yet another level of dynamics. How does Vertafore help to facilitate the global economy and the industry insurance play there?
Well, the insurance has been global for some time now, much longer than most industries. Many people are familiar with Lloyd's of London. They are an underwriting syndicate, kind of a group of underwriting organizations that make a market on a certain risk and will take on a risk. And I think we've all probably heard the story about, some actress's legs or some quarterback's arms.
I was going to say that in fear I was going to sound silly if I brought it up, but actually that's exactly what I thought of. Yeah.
And people go, you can practically insure anything. And so a lot of times people hear that Lloyd's of London wrote that. Well, Lloyd's of London was founded back in 1688, and they really started writing overseas risks in the 1800s. So, they've been doing it global for a long time, and that kind of set the stage for really insurance to be a global marketplace. And it truly is, because at the end of the day, what insurance, it's not a manufacturing facility. Insurance is capital, and it's data. And that's what it takes to work. And so it's very fluid across geographies. It's being ready to underwrite a risk and what's the price on that risk, and it doesn't take much more than that. And so it is very, very fluid across the globe. And what we've done at Vertafore to enable that is, again, shrink the world, if you will. And we have one of our solutions that we've put out there is pretty much a virtual trading area for unique risks, where a broker here in the United States may be challenged to find a market for a risk, might be a really unique risk, and they have to enter almost a Facebook-type environment out there. They're allowed to enter this environment, very secure, obviously, and exchange documents, and basically it's a little bit like Lloyd's of London started, which was just a coffee shop where a bunch of risk is basically naval and marine insurance and ship owners and wealthy people who had capital to insure these risks getting together. And so now we do that in a virtual environment, online, in these secure environments.
I think it's really exciting. I think a lot of times, I call them captured heroes, we don't realize these kind of things are happening right here in Atlanta and from companies that are either started here or developed here over the decades. We're running out of time. Surely I would love to spend and maybe invite you back to go into more detail, because obviously there's so many things that are going on that are, I think I often say the same thing, only different. That a lot of times, it was a billboard I saw that, we do the best, only better or something, and you go, what does that mean? But what I mean about the same thing, only different, is that technology is pervasive in it. The digitalization, the Internet, the interconnectivity, some of the things that you're talking about from a technology deliverable standpoint as it relates to your vertical really relates to a lot of other industries as well. So a lot of what you're going through, I think a lot of our listeners and members can relate to, because they're doing it, but only in a different way. Let's talk real quick with one last question, because we're running out of time, but what about the future? Looking into the future, insurance industry becomes a online marketplace even for individuals as well as for companies and representatives?
Well, I think it's definitely become online for individuals. It continues to move that way for what we call standard risks, basic things that we carriers understand, what they should charge you for a premium, depending on your age and your driving record and your automobile. The non-standard risks are where we are working on creating technology that allows for an open, collaborative environment, because it's not cookie cutter. Many of the big commercial risks that we offer, or that our customers offer, they're looking to us to provide a platform that allows them to leverage the technology, but then also keeps them flexible, because many of these large policies that are written don't fit into a neat little box. So our challenge is to create technology that's supportable and has a high level of quality and security, yet is flexible enough for the market constituents to really use the system. Because what we found is one of our hallmark products, the ImageRight product, the key element there is usability, and too often you can get in trouble with technology by getting too creative and too fancy. And at the end of the day, it makes it very difficult for the user to be a competent user, and then you see your ROI really get eroded because they're only using a fraction of the system. So there's that constant, really not just in the insurance industry, but anywhere in technology, that constant balance you have to maintain between newness and familiarity with the job at hand.
Sure, the culture to be able to adapt to it. You hear that a lot even in terms of even a private enterprise when it's adopting new technologies, and it overwhelms the culture and they really can't take advantage of all of the benefits that can come from it because it's just too overwhelming. I'll tell you one thing, Matt. If anyone ever says to you again that insurance technology is boring, just tell them to listen to Tech Talk, because I think today's conversation, I think anyone that's listening to what you're doing over there has got to be impressed with the dynamics and the creativity and the technology. So, Matt, thank you for taking time out of, obviously, your very busy schedule to spend a few minutes with us today on Tech Talk.
Well, Frank, I appreciate you having me on.